Daniel chapter 11 is such an amazing chapter prophetically. Remember, all of this has been set up by chapter 10. The angel that came, Daniel feeling humbled and prostrate on the ground and trembling, being strengthened, and the angel saying, I've come to answer your prayer, Daniel. It's taken 3 weeks. I've been fighting the prince of Persia. Remember, we talked about all that. And now chapter 11, we finally get to what is the angel going to say? How is Daniel's prayer going to be answered? What is God's plan for God's people? Remember, that's Daniel's concern. That's his heart. His heart is for the people of God. His heart is for their restoration. His heart is for their success. By the time Daniel is praying here in the 3rd year of Cyrus, already Zerubbabel and 50,000 of the Jews have gone back to Jerusalem, but that's just a paltry number compared to those that are in captivity. And no doubt this is a time of depression for Daniel in the sense that why didn't the people of God go back? Why was there not a mass return? What's going to happen? Is the future of God's people even secure? These are burdens on the heart of Daniel. And chapter 11 is going to answer all of those questions and speak to every one of those burdens in such a profound way. So detailed is the prophecy of Daniel chapter 11 that some liberal modern scholars have said that there's no way that Daniel could have written this. This must have been written by some unknown scribe after these events actually took place, because there's just no way, which to me just makes me smile. Because if you're a scholar of the Bible, I think you have to start with the premise that God is God. And God has that whole eternality, omniscience thing going on for him. But for some reason, they're just astounded that God actually could predict the future in detail. And yet that's exactly what happens here in Daniel chapter 11 in such a striking way. And I'm going to point out today a couple historical examples of how this striking prophecy made a difference. Remember, prophecy in the Bible is not there to satisfy our curiosity. We all love to know the future. What am I going to look like in 20 years? Where are my kids going to be? Where am I going to live? We have a curiosity about the future. But God's purpose in giving prophecy is not to satisfy curiosity. It's to make us more faithful and more committed in the present. So for instance, in the New Testament, when the second coming of Christ is iterated and reiterated, the whole purpose is that we would have confidence that this life is but a vapor. We live for then, not now. We can have confidence that he that began a good work in us, he will complete it, that truth wins, that Jesus wins, that we're on the winning side. All of that changes our attitude. All of that should change our priority. Seeing then, Peter said, that all these things shall be dissolved. What manner of persons ought we to be in all holy conversation and godliness? In other words, if we truly understood the future, it would change our godly living and perspective today. So let's keep that in mind as we study this amazing prophecy of Daniel chapter 11. Look at verse 1 of our text this morning, please. The Bible says, and I, in the 1st year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. So remember, this is the angel speaking on the behalf of God. This is the divine message. God said, Daniel, I've been at work. I've been at work from day one in the Persian Empire, and I'm still working. Now, I know what you just heard, that the Persian Empire is strong and the Prince of Persia has hindered this prayer for 3 weeks. And it looks as if you're under the domination of a world power. But I I put Darius the Mede in place. I am the mover and shaker in the Persian Empire. And there are coming at least 3 more Persian kings. Look at verse number 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. So, Daniel, here's what's going to happen. And by the way, Daniel had to have understood that this means long after I die, Persia is still going to be in power. Daniel probably held out hopes that Jerusalem and God's people would quickly populate and take over the world through Messiah's rule. But now he knows, according to the prophecy in Daniel 9, that it's at least 483 years until Messiah comes, and that's going to happen only after the decree to rebuild in Jerusalem, which doesn't happen for another 100 years anyway. So it's going to be at least 580 years or so until Messiah is crucified. Of course, he doesn't understand crucifixion, but until Messiah's cut off. So Daniel already knows that there's a time frame here, but now that's reiterated because in Daniel chapter 11, the Lord says, there are coming at least 3 more Persian kings, and then a 4th king who's going to be greater and richer than the ones that preceded him. So who is that 4th king of Persia to whom the angel here is referring? Well, it's none other than Xerxes. So if you study secular history, you'll read the greatest king of Persia was Xerxes. And it was under the rule of Xerxes that the kingdom expanded to its greatest expanse. It was Xerxes who unsuccessfully waged a campaign against Greece, wanting to take over Greece. He had traveled all the way there, lost at the Battle of Salamis, but he stirred them up. He stirred up Greece. Xerxes was the richest. Xerxes was the most powerful. You say, well, where's the name Xerxes in the Bible? This is going to be interesting to you. The name Xerxes is not in the Bible. His other name is given in the Bible, and that's the name Ahasuerus. You know who Ahasuerus was, right? He was the king who was married to Vashti. He was the king who had the beauty contest. He was the king that married Esther. See, all of that happened on the heels of his Grecian campaign that was unsuccessful. So, wow, look at how the Bible just kind of wends into and weaves into the story of history. For indeed, the Bible is the significant story of history. So what is God predicting? That this king will come, his kingdom will be expansive, he will be rich, he will stir up Greece, and all of that happened. Now, look at verse number 3 of Daniel chapter 11. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. So Greece will be stirred up, and so from Greece, a mighty king will arise, and he will do whatever he wants. It seems like this king will get what he wants. He'll go where he wants. He'll defeat whom he wants. And all of that happened because the king about whom the angel is speaking here is none other than Alexander the Great, who in his late 20s and early 30s took over the world with a much smaller army, numbers-wise, than the army of Persia. But it was Alexander that swept from Macedonia through modern-day Turkey, down through Syria and Lebanon, through Israel, over to Egypt, out to Persia, defeating the great Persian army with an amazing victory. That was Alexander. And God is predicting that that mighty king will take over the Persian Empire. Look at verse number 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. And that happened. Alexander died in a drunken party in Babylon. Having defeated the Persians, he died in Babylon, right where Daniel is, right here. It died in Babylon at age 32. And because he didn't have any clear heir, he's only 32. He had a brother who was kind of crazy. He had a son. His wife was pregnant with a son, wasn't even born until after he died. And then he had an illegitimate son. So there was no clear heir. And even though he tried to separate his kingdom into the hands of his brother and his son that wasn't even born when he died, that didn't work out because the plotters and the conspirators just got rid of them. So what ended up happening? Well, the Bible says in verse 4 that when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven and not to his posterity. So God said that when he dies, the kings that will arise will not be his posterity, born of him, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. The king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him and have dominion, and his dominion shall be a great dominion. Now, we're not going to have time to talk about all this today, but what happened was Alexander did indeed die. His kingdom was not given to his posterity. There were four kings that basically divvied up his kingdom. And two of those kings are significant in the story of God's people. One was the king Ptolemy, P-T-O-L, Ptolemy in Egypt. And the other one was Seleucia, who the Seleucid kings that ruled over Syria, but really part of their rule was Israel. So that's why it's important. So we're going to look at the Ptolemaic kings and the Seleucid kings, and a king that arose out of the Seleucid kings that was a type of Antichrist himself. Now, we've talked about him already. We'll talk about him more in the next couple of days. And I want to tell you tomorrow a story. It's not found in the Bible, but Josephus, the Jewish historian, gave us a story about why did Alexander, when he came through Israel and eventually went out and defeated Persia, and he left just a wake of destruction and defeat in his path, why did he not defeat the people of Israel? Why did he treat them kindly? Why did he give them a pass? Why? I mean, the ruler of the world, a small nation like Israel, you are going to be absolutely amazed by the story. It's incredible, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So I hope you have a great day today, and we'll see you, Lord willing, tomorrow at 10. God bless.